Artists of all ages are often asked who was their greatest influence. Answers sometimes include names of musicians, other artists, dancers, or writers, all well-known or prize-winning. Sewing artists often mention their mothers or grandmothers or home economics teachers as their greatest influence. Who taught you to sew? Have you thanked them? Are you teaching someone to sew? Please pass the love of sewing on to future generations. I appreciate your taking time to join us today. We are going to have fun. Welcome to my sewing room. It is so much fun to make baby day gowns. This is absolutely precious. We have the crossed bias on the little high yoke, wonderful little tailored pleats. And you know what? This is a serger piping, which has been inserted in the collar. Sweet little rickrack. If you'll come down to the bottom of this adorable day gown, you'll see the little hem also has the absolutely sweet rickrack. It is so much fun to make baby clothes. Now here is a trick. To make that wonderful high yoke with the crossed bias, first of all, you grid off your fabric because you're going to make the fabric before you cut it out. Then you're going to need the bias strips, whatever size you choose to make them. Then on the serger, fun, you're going to make the bias strips on the serger and actually they're going to be fusible. Then you're going to fuse the bias strips down. You have created the fabric and now you're ready to cut out the bodice. Now here comes some more fun. You can stitch those pieces of bias down with any stitch you would like to. Here we have used a blanket stitch or a Madeira applique stitch. Here is the beloved feather stitch. You know how much we love feather stitch, those of us that love to make baby clothes. And then you can just do straight stitches, or you could use a double needle, but if you just have a straight stitch on your machine and zigzag, just straight stitch it down. That is absolutely beautiful. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my very dear friend Pam Mahshie. Pam is the National Ambassador for Education for Baby Lock USA. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha.
This is so adorable.
Thank you. I just love to do little girls things. You know, I have boys, and I just want to share with the viewers some wonderful serger techniques. You know, we work with our sergers so often for utilitarian uses that there's many creative ways that we can work with them. So let's come over to the boards and look at how we've done that gridded fabric piece. First of all, we're going to use some what I call magic threads. The magic threads that we're going to be working with are going to be a fusible thread, which we're going to use in our chain looper. We're also going to use then a wash away thread in the needles of the machine. And we are going to use the narrow belt loop binder on our serger. Again, as you mentioned, we're going to grid off our fabric, and we cut our fabric strips to 1 1/8 inches. Now once the strip is stitched, we're going to fuse it down to that gridded panel. And as you can see, here we have the gridded panel pressed in place. And we've created the large piece of fabric and then placed our pattern piece on top and cut that out. Now after the pattern piece is cut out, you can assemble your garment just as normal. Here's a couple of different options and ways that you can use the bias strips. First of all, I would recommend that when you are working with your sewing machine that you use one of the edge stitching feet. This edge stitching foot is going to align with the edge of your bias and give you perfect edge stitching on that bias piece. Or you can use a wide decorative stitch right down the middle, and we've used a contrasting thread here so that you can see the various options. Now not only could you use the bias in a straight manner, but because of that bias shape that it has, you can form and shape any type of decorative application. Here we've also gathered using the chain stitch and the differential feed on our serger, and then we've applied the decorative bias strip right on top of that gathering to give us the puffing effect.
Just fascinating what you can do with the bias strips, Pam.
Right, and it's very easy. As we go to our serger now, again, we're going to place the fusible thread in our chain looper and our wash away threads in the needles. One thing you want to watch out for is don't moisten the end of your thread when you're using that wash away thread, because you'll never get it through the eye of the needle. So simply, we place the bias strip of fabric, and this could be a straight grain piece of fabric as well, if you're not going to form on a curve, and just simply insert it into the bias binder, stitch, and you can actually let it go and do it all by itself.
Wow.
Continue to stitch. Now you have a perfectly formed strip that you can use and apply in any way.
Pam, that is so fascinating. What did we ever do before our sergers?
I know.
And then all of these additional things, in addition to finishing seams, which many, many years ago you purchased a serger to finish seams. What I would like for you to do is once again to show that adorable bodice. That is one of the sweetest baby day gowns I've ever seen, and it looks like it's pretty easy.
Sure, and this application you could use for boys or for girls.
Absolutely, that is so precious. Thank you so much, Pam. And now Pam has some sewing inspirations for you. Pam, I'm so thrilled you have brought these things. Tell us about them.
Well, this was my dad's blanket, and I've always wanted to share it and bring it along because I thought it was such a treasure. And in the opening, you said, make sure that you pass on that lineage of sewing. And this was his great aunt that made this, and I think it's just such a special piece that we can treasure from our family heritage.
Pam, you've got to tell the story about this pattern. It is so fascinating.
Well, this is a group of patterns from our family, and this was always a pattern that was sent home with the mothers in the hospital from the Wisconsin Board of Health, and it would show them how to dress their babies once they would get home.
A pattern, a sewing pattern was sent. I wonder what year that would have been.
I think it was like the 1940s that they would send that home.
I wonder what would happen if we sent a pattern home today.
They wouldn't know what to do with it at some point.
And then here's one that was sent in the mail.
Sent in the mail, and then we have the pattern inside. And what's so nice about this is it does have all of the patterns that you can trace and transfer, but with the software that we have, we can load that into the software and we can digitize those designs.
I don't have to do it by hand.
And don't have to do it by hand.
Sweet little baby day gowns, which is what we're talking about today.
Just so cute, just wonderful little pieces that are in there, and some pieces that we would never even think to do right now in these days.
I just appreciate so much you're bringing these family treasures. And now let's look at some modern things, which really there's nothing new, because this is the same kinds of patterns.
Same kinds of patterns, except when we did the bodice here, we gathered this all using the serger and the chain stitch.
Love it.
Gathered it all up, and then used the decorative stitches on the machine for the enhancement.
Absolutely precious. And this little boy gown.
A little boy gown, using the wave stitch on the serger to create the decorative piping to insert around the neckline, and then added the same type of trim around the sleeves and created the band for down the front.
Absolutely beautiful. And now let's go to something for the ladies.
It's a little bigger girl.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a little girl.
It's for a little girl. And here we have again the use of serging for decorative uses. Decorative thread in our chain looper, and here we've created a fringe using again one of the attachments from the serger.
Fringe on this. Pam, what will we do next on the serger? Such a sweet little portrait party dress.
Isn't that cute?
Oh, it's so cute.
It is so cute, with using the embroidery this time, and making the medallions and then adding those to the collar. And we have some wonderfully talented educators who shared this dress with us, and all of the fabric on the underdress was also embroidered separately. And then the overlay was placed on.
How pretty. And this beautiful little day gown,
and
or christening dress, either
christening
one.
Dress.
Either one,
So many times we have so many decorative stitches on our sewing machine that we don't always know what to do with. And here's a great way to create a bodice or make extra trim using the decorative stitches on the machine and the wing needle.
Oh, Pam, thank you so much for all of these treasures. And now Pam has a so quick, so easy idea to share with you. Pam, I love what you have done with these onesies. Tell us about it. So cute.
Many times you were invited to a baby shower and you just want to give something just a little extra special. So here we've added the skirt to the top of a onesie, and you can use many decorative trims, extra little pieces of ribbon, decorative stitches, whatever you have available.
Just have fun with your sewing machine or your serger, whatever.
Or your serger, whichever.
Look at this beautiful little white with the linen.
And here we've added more decorative stitches. The other we used our serger, and again here we did decorative stitches, pieces of lace, and just for that extra added touch of class, we added the extra little beads.
Oh, it's so sweet.
Very sweet. So all we need to do is cut off the bottom part of the onesie. Determine the length of the bodice that you're wanting to add the skirt to. Many times we have a lot of extra trims that we have in our boxes, and simply add those trims to a piece of fabric that's 45 inches wide by 24 inches in length. And after you have the trims added across the bottom edge, then we're simply going to sew a seam through the back side to join the two, to join it together, then run a row of gathering stitches, and then simply gather that up and add it to the top of your onesie. That's it.
Pam, this is so cute. Now let me just hold this up again. You just used one width of 45-inch fabric, didn't you?
One width of 45-inch
fabric. Which is more than full enough.
Sure.
And had all kinds of fun from your stash. And or even purchase, but you could just use your stitches on your sewing machine just to make a beautiful skirt. Oh, Pam, this is the nicest idea. Thank you so much for all of your creativity and for being here. And now I have some hand embroidery to share with you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest my dear friend Beverley Sheldrick. Beverley is from New Zealand. She is an internationally recognized author and teacher. Beverley, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Martha. It's always wonderful to be here with you and to be with your viewers as well. Now, today I would like to show you these very pretty little summer bells. They're just sort of a lovely drop flower to put in if you're doing an arrangement and you want something that just adds that little kink. So here we have, you will see that I have them here on the bonnet here, and also on the dress I have them in this section here, just to give balance. I didn't want a lot of weight to the design, just a little bit of balance. So they're very simple to do. We'll just look at them here, and you will see. To start off with, they're done a little bit differently to how we would normally do something. You will see how I've got this drawn in pencil. Do remember you do need a certain amount of curve when you're drawing your line, because you need something to drop from. So here you can see I've got my line drawn here. You will also notice that I've actually got my little lines drawn in first. It's very difficult to judge it without drawing them. So make life easy for yourself. I believe in easy. So here you'll see that I've got drawn 3 little stitches there. I've got these 2 drop stitches there. Now you'll see here that here I've got these 3 little stitches. They're just like this, and with a 3rd one in the middle. And then you'll see up here that I've now moved to my floss. I've used here I've got a flourish, and I've put a lazy daisy leaf at the end. You'll see I've actually done one of them there in isolation. Then the stem stitch comes down to here, and you will find that from this point I've then put 2 of these long lazy daisy stitches there, which form the cap for the flower, and then you continue on down like this until once more you get to here, and then I'll be putting in another of these 2 lazy daisy stitches, and you can see here that I've got a completed one here, just like that. So really, there's not a lot in the way of leaves. It's just that one at the end and then these two that form that. So again, you will see here I've started, I've got my drawn line in, I've done the first one there, so I'm just going to put that first stitch out there like that with a nice swing on it. I'm going to leave a little space in the middle, and I'm going to come down to here, and then I'm going to come back up to here, and I'm going to put that last one in like that. It's a little bit longer than the others. So that was simple, wasn't it? Just try and keep it so that the stitch is straight. Now you can see here I've already started to put in that. So there's my lazy daisy stitch. Don't forget to put a little elongation before you go through. Now I'm going to come back to here and I'm going to do this stem stitch, and we're just going to whistle along to here very quickly like this, and we're going to come, and I'm just going to slip on down to here because you all know how to do that, and then up coming from here, come down like this, bring this lazy daisy stitch right down to here so that you come up just within the bell like that, and then into there, and then go back to the same situation here, and I'm just going to pull that a little bit tighter there, and then I'm going to do that second lazy daisy, which will come up down here. We don't want it quite that low, so we'll just put it like that, and once more put that elongation, and then I will just go back to here and I will continue on, and you can see how here there's that leaf at the end. I've come down to here, I then put those two elongations there to form the cap to the flower, and then I've continued to go on down like that. And of course I'll be just remembering, of course, to always keep the thread on the outside because the curve is going that way, so you will always keep the thread above the needle if it's going that way. Of course, if it's going the other way, if the curve was going this way, then we would keep the thread underneath, and I will continue like that until I get down to here, and then I'll drop another cap into there. Now that was very simple, wasn't it?
Beverly, it is very simple and very beautiful. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
And now I have a home decorating project to share with you. Preparing a baby's room has to be one of the most fun tasks for a mother or a grandmother. And since we are expecting a new grandbaby in our family, this is especially exciting to me. This is a little toy catcher or a diaper stacker to be hung either on the crib or somewhere else in the room. And it has the most wonderful techniques. Lots of pretty baby fabrics, from piqué to dotted Swiss to striped dotted Swiss, and another wonderful trim which is cotton rickrack in every beautiful color known to humanity. And of course, what can be more fun than little embroideries? These happen to be little circus babies and little circus elephant. And then there is the wonderful fringe around the outside. And then the inside is just a beautiful yellow piqué. Now you notice we've done a little patchwork here. This is kind of the easy kind of patchwork because we've connected all kinds of different fabrics together. Let's have some fun. Now the little embroideries are done on individual pieces, of course, and I might add, and I think all of you know this, but embroideries absolutely have to have stabilizer. And here there are 2 pieces of wash-away stabilizer that have been used because this is a Swiss dotted Swiss. It really is a thin sort of batiste kind of fabric. Have fun, do your machine embroidery to your heart's content on the little pieces, and then we're going to sew each piece together. And you know what is really fun is to take a little piece of the cotton rickrack. And by the way, all these fabrics are cotton, so I would suggest using the cotton rickrack. And you're going to straight stitch it straight down to cover up the seams. And it adds such a little happy color to the project also. All right, the whole thing is now put together, and we'll pretend we have embroideries where those crosses are drawn. Then a wider piece of cotton rickrack can be used. Once again, put it down, and you know what's kind of fun? To use that wash away, if you'd like to use that wash away basting glue so you can keep it completely in place and not have to worry about if it's going to wander around just a little bit while you straight stitch it. Okay, we've used all of our decorative rickracks. Now let's have some more fun with the rickrack. This is really a little button, a little belt loop. So the rickrack has been run through the belt loop, and you might even zigzag the pieces of rickrack together. Let's see, we have here yellow and pink and lavender and robin's egg blue and all kind, yellow and white. You might, if you want to, zigzag those together on both sides or straight stitch them and then run the whole thing through the button loop and then sew your, belt loop and sew it on. Now then, here is another idea that you could use. Just run it through this is a button. You could run the rickrack up through the button and let the little rickrack, let the little ends kind of make a decorative effect. Then you put your fringe on the bottom, of course, sew it on, and it's now time to assemble the whole project. And this is just plain fun. You know what this will be cute on too? This will be wonderful to do at the top of curtains or just a little valance in the baby's room, to put something like this and make it for a baby's valance. That would be sweet too. And now I would like to invite you to see a piece from my vintage collection that I have been collecting for years and years and years. I have an incredibly patient husband named Joe that many of you have heard me talk about, who literally has traveled the world with me hunting for these antique clothes. This particular little dress, I believe this was one of my finds when we went to England, and he said, you know, Martha, we'll go from London up to Scotland, spend the night, look in the antique stores. We'll then go down to Wales, look around, then we'll go across to Ireland, look around, and then we'll go back to London. And that's what we did, and I bought lots of things on that trip. This little dress has wonderful embroidery. Actually, it was an all-over embroidered fabric that you can see the bodice and the sleeves are made from. Then the skirt is also one of those wonderful pieces of all-over embroidered fabric. We used to call that eyelet fabric when I was a little girl. This, of course, was from Switzerland, and it's very, very old. One of the things I would like to share with you is, if you're so fortunate as to have an embroidery machine, you can embroider to your heart's content this all-over fabric. And if you did your own embroidery with your embroidery machine, the whole skirt would take you some time to do, but this would be French sewing on a budget, I promise you. And you can have so much fun doing it. Now I'm going to turn this dress around to show you the back. And the back is, of course, exactly like the front, with the beautiful embroidered bodice, the high yoke bodice, the sleeves, and then the embroidery goes all the way around. And I will say that this would be a wonderful project for you just to enjoy, and you can embroider it to your heart's content. To go ahead and make that. I have a wonderful letter from the Mountain Climbers class in Houston, Texas. Our Sunday school class of senior citizen age couples began plans to make baby blankets for our local crisis pregnancy center. Our sewing team learned that the regular $5.99 luscious flannel would be on sale the day after Thanksgiving for $1 a yard. She and her husband were at line at 5 a.m. and bought 300 yards. The class took donations to pay for the fabric. We began sewing in January, and the first week in March, we delivered over 160 double-thick blankets to the Crisis Pregnancy Center. This Sunday school group became closer every time we gathered to sew. We will start a new project soon. I think, and this is from Arlene. Arlene, I just think this is so exciting what your Sunday school group decided to do, to use your sewing machines to help those in need. And I can tell you that many, many Sunday school classes are doing this. And I think the fact that two of them stood in line at 5 a.m., that's something the husbands can do. Go stand in line to get this fabric on sale. Arlene, thank you so much. You and your class, the Mountain Climbers class from Houston, Texas. Thank you so much for sharing your time and for sharing your beautiful project with us at Martha's Sewing Room. I have just had a wonderful time having you visit with me today. I hope you've had fun too. And very importantly, I'd like to ask you to come back next time.